Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another VMware Customer Success webinar. Today we have a little bit of a special one. I guess they're all kind of special ones, but today we're going to be going over a recap of what happened last week at VMworld US. So for those that were unable to attend, or even those that were able to attend, but missed out on all of the action going on, there was quite a few things going on. I was there. I was in meetings primarily all week. I did have a session. Unfortunately, the session I did was not recorded. However, we're going to be doing the same session in EMEA for those that didn't make it to the one in Americas and happen to be going to EMEA. But so that's enough about what I was kind of doing last week. Like I said, I had a lot of great conversations with customers. Quite a few people again back in San Francisco. So I thought we'd just hop right into it, and I think I'd like to go over kind of a good summarization that one of our CTOs, Vice President Chris Wolf, put together, which I think really highlights a lot of the good stuff that we went over. And we'll delve into a little bit of the other stuff, a little bit more detail as we go further on. And also, this is going to be more onto the cloud side of things. There's definitely a lot of announcements around EUC and other products and networking specific and stuff like that. So I'm going to touch primarily on the stuff that have dealt directly with VMware Cloud stuff. So jumping right into it. So as everybody knows, we are really buying into modern apps and cloud native and whatever kind of catchphrase you kind of want to put onto that. Boils down to basically Kubernetes and containers. And one of the big acquisitions we made recently that we talked a little bit more about at VMworld, we had their CEO stand up and everything, was around Bitnami. So Bitnami is a catalog of a pre-built, scan tested, continuously maintained application content for Kubernetes clusters. So it's kind of a library for containers or deployment portfolios and stuff like that. And the nice thing is with a lot of our security suites, you can actually sign these containers and these content from Bitnami so that your developers, when they're going to deploy it and stuff, aren't modifying the space stuff. You're not getting some bad code and stuff in there, some security violations. You can really have a very large granular control over what goes from Bitnami. But we're really putting all these things together, which we'll talk about in another second here. Actually, this is a little bit out of order for what was announced in the keynote, but what we're talking about next is what we call Project Pacific, and this is actually a pretty big one. This has actually gone under a couple different code names in VMware past. There were, we call it WCP. There's a whole bunch of code names. VMware loves their code names. But anyway, Project Pacific is what we're coming with. And this is actually kind of a really revolutionary thing and really kind of demonstrates how bought in we are to Kubernetes. So Project Pacific is really about making Kubernetes clusters a first-class citizen on our SDDC. So they sit directly on top of the hypervisor and can provision containers to it. So it's not like provisioning through vCenter and into a VM and those kinds of things, which we've kind of developed workarounds in the past for to kind of make a container look like a first-class citizen. But this is truly the Kubernetes system running right at our hypervisor layer. And we're going to have a little bit of, like I said, a little bit more dive into this later. I'm going to show some kind of demo videos and stuff like that. But that's really what it is. As I said, it's been in the works for a couple years now internally at VMware. Finally, we were able to announce it and talk about it. And I think this is really going to be exciting. You can have your VMware virtual machines and your Kubernetes containers or managed containers sitting right next to each other, right at the hypervisor layer. And some of the numbers we were pitching out there were actually better performance than running it on bare metal, which I find hard to believe, but we have the metrics to back it up. So, and also, it's just better to run things in a virtual world. Is kind of the way I look at it, obviously. And then the next announcement that we had, I guess it was kind of preceding this in the keynote, was around what we're calling Tanzu, which is actually a very cool name. So this is kind of a management software to be able to manage multiple Kubernetes clusters in any cloud you so desire, whether that be in VMware Cloud on AWS, your private cloud, GCP on AWS. It's a centralized system so that you can operationalize it and have governance all around it. Because the one thing that VMware is very good at, and I feel it was lacking in a lot of this space, was that, I call it enterprising it up. So it's great to have developers the freedom to develop fast. That's what businesses are requiring now. This is what businesses need to do in today's world, is they need to innovate quickly and develop quickly. And everybody's got an app for everything. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes behind that, right? To operationalize it, to be able to manage it, to be able to troubleshoot it when things go awry. This is one of the things that comes up very, very often whenever we talk to a lot of our customers and CTOs out there, is that, root cause analysis in kind of the DevOps world is a lot of times very difficult. We've come up with concepts of like SREs and stuff like that to try to get closer to it. But that's really where VMware comes in very nicely with our monitoring suites, our logging suites, a robust ecosystem built all around us. So we're bringing that into the multi-cloud. And I know there's been some debate around the difference between multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. And I mean, that's become all these terms have become as nebulous as anything. But when we talk about multi-cloud, we're talking about deploying into multiple different clouds and not necessarily having hybridity between them, if that makes any kind of sense. But being able to deploy into multiple clouds and use best-of-breed services around clouds, but have a centralized management so that you can see and manage and audit all of these workloads, to satisfy the rest of the business. Good to innovate fast, but you need to operationalize it. And Tanzu is really going to be fantastic in that space. Again, we'll have a little bit of a more of a video on this a little bit later. I'm just kind of going over the highlights as we go down. So delving in a little bit more into some of the day-to-day stuff that I do. So we announced the availability of VMware Cloud on Dell EMC. So we have announced VMware Cloud on Dell EMC back at Dell EMC World. That was in March, I think, or April or May, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it really was taking a lot of interest. Now it is available. Now it is something that you can actually order and buy. And something else that we'll talk along that's along the lines of this are our Dimension product, which is like VMware Cloud on Dell EMC, but it's kind of with you bring your own hardware as opposed to you ordering the kit. So we have a couple sessions on VMware Cloud on Dell EMC if you want to delve deeper into that, but essentially it's you buy the hardware from Dell EMC. We come, we deliver it, we set it up for you, we plug it in, and then our team manages that for you like it is VMware Cloud. It's just on hardware that you're leasing in your own data center. So it's kind of like, the best part of public cloud, of us managing things for you, but with the, your data and everything is within still your own physical boundaries. So it's a kind of a nice hybrid cloud approach there. Then we have some new HCX capabilities on VMware Cloud and AWS. We have some other cool things around our migration centers and some other stuff around our marketplace that's coming up. Again, we'll go into a little bit more of this detail in a little bit here. And we've renamed a few things as well. Log Intelligence is now Log Insight Cloud, and Network Insight, is now vRealize Network Insight Cloud. So we've just kind of thrown cloud onto the services as opposed to renaming them, because it's causing a lot of confusion out there in the industry. So we've kind of done some renaming. Then again, we'll go into a little bit more detail on this in a little bit. We've also announced some features and functionalities around vRealize operations and VRA, vRealize Automation 8. So that's the next version of VR8, which is going to be the merging of the code base between Cloud Automation Services, which is CAS, which is now actually, I believe, been renamed vRealize Automation Cloud. So again, we're just kind of throwing the cloud word on the end of the thing that we're offering in SaaS in the cloud. Kind of makes sense. I like it from a simplicity standpoint for marketing. So just be aware of that. So there were some announcements about that. About, like I said, the key part to me is they're merging that code base. So whether you have vRealize Automation 8 or VRA Cloud, it's going to be the same experience, just delivered in different manners. Like I said, VROPS is always being continuously advanced and moving forward. We talked about a lot of stuff around Cloud Health and Wavefront. If you haven't checked these out, it's great. I highly recommend you watch our webinar that we did on Wavefront. Absolutely amazing product. I don't do it justice by explaining it. We use it extensively internally, and is really an application-centric real-time monitoring solution that's really fantastic, that we're merging all of these things together. So we'll jump into a little bit different detail, and I'm just kind of jumping from blog post to blog post. We don't have a lot of marketing material developed yet, and I want to make sure that everything I'm talking about is public information, because sometimes I know a little bit in the roadmap, so I want to make sure I walk the straight and narrow. So we are in 16 AWS regions globally, continually adding more. Like I said, we're on pace to be in all AWS data centers in very short order here. So we're really, working our way across that. The new HCX capabilities we talked about were something we call cloud to cloud, which is what's referenced here, an ability to migrate across SDDCs. So you can actually kind of now pair up SDDCs and migrate things. So if for whatever reason you ran into a capacity scale, or you wanted to move to a different availability zone, or whatever reason that you wanted to move some virtual machines from one SDDC to another, we now can pair it up with HCX, do a layer 2 span, and you can live move everything over. There is some enhancement to the logical grouping of VMs, so you can do things like parameters such as name, the subnet it's a part of, and be able to group that way, and then do schedules based upon that, which is a little more intuitive than some of the ways of doing it before. We're just kind of selecting virtual machines, so it gives a little more functionality. Increased resiliency, so we do have what we call mesh, what we call service mesh actually. Everybody uses that term now. But we're able to actually split up network flows now across multiple layer 3 tunnels. So that's actually, so we could actually get some more redundancy there. So that if one of these devices or one of the appliances happen to fail, your migrations as such and your traffic can maintain. And we also have a health dashboard, which actually helps a lot when you're doing your migrations. If you do happen to run into any kind of issues, it kind of is a much easier way of identifying it quickly. There is also VROPS plugins for HCX that are exceptional, that help with monitoring around those kinds of things. So we're definitely trying to, again, enterprise up all of the services to make sure that we have some robust operations and management behind all of our products. We've talked a lot about Elastic vSAN. So this is our EBS-backed R5s. So those have been released for quite a while now. So it's something that's going to continue to be developed. So with this release, we're actually able to scale the capacity up now. Before, you used to be able to just have what was selected at the time, but now you can actually increase that as you go forward, up to the limit of which I think is still 35 terabytes, but that's going to be raised as part of our roadmap as well. Like I mentioned, we renamed some of our cloud products. So for vRealize Network Insight Cloud now is what Network Insight used to be, or Network Intelligence used to be. Yeah. And vRealize Log Insight Cloud is what used to be Log Intelligence. The big part here for Log Intelligence is there's now more thrown in for free. So before, so if you look here, what we're saying is real-time and query-based alerting, log forwarding to on-premises SaaS destinations, log export for all offline access, and metric extraction for log messages and public queries. All those are included now for free. Before, things like log forwarding, some of the audit dashboards were not included for free. Now they are. They're included as part of your VMware Cloud on AWS subscription. So when you buy VMware Cloud on AWS, you do get these enhanced features with Log Insight, which is actually really fantastic. If you don't know much about Log Insight, I suggest you check into it. I believe we have some content up around this, and it is really it's kind of how you get all of your logs from your SDDC when you're living in the VMware Cloud on AWS world. So it's good that we're throwing in some more for free. So we talk a lot about the entire ecosystem. Like I said, we're really trying to bring that enterprise operations model and compliancy models to VMware Cloud and AWS, because it's so important in the cloud world, and it's something that's really missing. And the last part we'll talk about here is the marketplace. So this is still currently in beta. I wish I could kind of show it off. Maybe we'll get some people on and we'll show it. So it's going to have a whole bunch of. So think about the AWS marketplace, right? The AWS marketplace, you go to there, you can grab a partner solution and deploy it to your AWS infrastructure. This is essentially the same thing. So all of our partners will have published solutions. We'll have our own published solutions. You could just go in, click a button, boom, it'll deploy into your VMware Cloud on AWS S2DC. Like I said, we're also going to be putting it with, including it with Bitnami and getting app defense and all that kind of security around it, so that you can have confidence in deploying these things, and really just kind of gives you, again, a marketplace to go and get some pre-built appliances and solutions, as opposed to having to build it yourself. Again, just making everything easier in the cloud world. I mentioned a little bit earlier around Project Dimension. So this is where we bring our managed solutions to your resources. So it's going to be, you're going to have to have some compatible hardware and stuff like that. But this is really built for edge, for remote office and stuff like that, to bring that VMware Cloud experience, again, even closer and into more of your infrastructure. To again, to clear this up, because it's kind of some of the questions is, did anybody ask for this? I got one of those questions, and the default answer is, I don't know if anybody necessarily asked for it, but now that they know it's out there, they want it, and it makes a lot of sense, because we've talked for I've been in this industry for 20 years ish. I'll just say ish to hide how old I am, but there's, even back then, all we talked about was freeing up time from doing operations to do the stuff that actually runs the business, and to innovate and to deliver value back to the business. We've been talking about this for 20 years. And we never really got too far ahead. We got a lot of tools. We got a lot of stuff that made our lives easier, but then we just kind of got more and more to manage. And then we kind of got information overflow. And then things got more complex with the number of products that you had that were trying to all work together. Now I think we're there. I think we're finally there where, VMware takes on a lot of that hassle for you. Especially around keeping all of our products in sync and upgraded and working fine, to actually let you do all of the stuff that actually delivers value to your business, not, sitting around patching hosts, reading our compatibility lists, getting the latest firmware of something, that's just handled by us, and you can just go and do what, delivers value to the business and turns that IT model from a cost center to, again, really providing value back to and making money for the company, as opposed to, just being, what's looked at as kind of a glutton and a necessary evil. So it's really, I think I said, finally we're there after 20 plus years of this, and I think it'll continue to expand that way to, continue to let developers develop, let VMware handle the infrastructure layer, and you guys just worry about the operations and keeping, the services up and innovating on those services to continue to drive value. So that's really kind of the part of the story, again, with VMware Cloud on Dell EMC, VMware Cloud on AWS, and Project Dimension. So I mentioned a little bit about Tanzu, so I'm actually going to just play this little video, because it does kind of go over an overview of things, and it gives everybody a little bit of break of hearing me talk. So let's just play this video.
You've spun up Kubernetes for your organization. Like everyone, you've started with just a few Kubernetes clusters. But once the word is out that you're speeding development cycles and slashing resource costs, you'll be asked to juggle more. You'll be juggling many clusters for many teams and operating across many environments. How can you keep a handle on it all? VMware Tanzu Mission Control is Kubernetes mission control for the enterprise. Here's how it works. Create a Kubernetes cluster or attach an existing cluster to Tanzu Mission Control. It doesn't matter where that cluster is located, in your data center, on public cloud, or at the edge. You can bring all your clusters together and manage them with consistency and confidence. Monitor the health of all in one place. Enforce policies to determine who can access clusters, how traffic is routed to them, and how they are backed up. Policies can be enforced at a cluster-wide and an application-specific level. This is enterprise-grade security we're talking about. Here's the kicker. While your platform team is tightening its grip on operations, you can give developers more independence with centralized authentication, API-driven workflows, and managed namespaces. You can give developers self-service access to the resources they need to test and run containerized applications on any infrastructure. It's time to circle around. With VMware Tanzu Mission Control, you have total control of your Kubernetes footprint. You can provision a new cluster or attach existing clusters, enforce networking, security, access, and backup and recovery policies across clusters. Give developers on-demand access to the resources they need, and move with zero risk of lock-in. It's worth repeating. All clusters are welcome here. And that right there is how you use Kubernetes to transform the way you operate. It's not an act, it's showtime. Want a front row seat? Visit cloud.vmware.com/Tanzu.
So hopefully that gave at least a little bit of an overview of what Tanzu is about. Again, as we talked about earlier, it's really kind of mission control for all of your Kubernetes clusters around the world, around any different operations. Again, avoiding lock-in in any cloud, and really, like I said, developing those or delivering those developer tools to your developers, wrapped up with your operations and your procedures around it. Like I said, enterprising it up. I'm going to trademark that, enterprising it up. So hopefully that was a little bit informative. Again, come to cloud.vmware.com Tanzu if you want to even get more information. Again, very early stages of this. We just announced it, so we'll probably have more information on this as time goes on. And we'll do some follow-ups on this as well as the Tanzu and Kubernetes world is coming more and more into the VMworld Cloud realm. Also, like I said, one of the very exciting, to me, one of the most exciting announcements we had was around Project Pacific. So maybe I'll let Kit Colbert go over a little bit of the introduction of it. Kit is one of our CTOs. He also works on the Dimension product and has worked on some VMware Cloud and AWS stuff as well. So let's let Kit take it away.
Hi, I'm Kit Colbert, and I am super excited to talk about a game-changing evolution of vSphere called Project Pacific. The goal of Project Pacific is to transform vSphere into a modern application platform. But why are we doing this? Well, applications have changed. Apps today are more heterogeneous and complex. An app is no longer composed of one or two VMs, but is now a complex combination of VMs, containers, application services, and more. This causes problems for both developers and IT ops. Developers don't get the tools or experience they want, and IT ops can't properly secure or manage these applications. But vSphere has already solved these problems for traditional apps. So the question is, how can we evolve vSphere so it can do the same for modern applications as well? Enter Project Pacific. Project Pacific uses Kubernetes to fundamentally re-architect vSphere. It unites vSphere and Kubernetes by embedding Kubernetes into the control plane of vSphere, meaning containers now appear on the vSphere client right next to VMs and can be managed just like VMs. It also converges the VM and container runtime using something called vSphere native pods. vSphere native pods are a fast, lightweight, and secure container runtime built into vSphere. And in some cases, they're even faster than bare metal. Project Pacific also enables IT ops to manage at an application level. This means that instead of individually managing VMs and containers, IT ops has app-level control for applying policies, quota, and role-based access to developers. By doing all this, Project Pacific facilitates developer and IT ops collaboration. IT operators can use vSphere tools to deliver Kubernetes clusters to developers, who can then use Kubernetes APIs to access that underlying SCDC infrastructure. With Project Pacific, VMware is transforming vSphere into the application platform of the future. Learn more about it at vmware.com.
So Kit does a good job of talking around what there was. So again, that just kind of highlighted, what I was mentioning before is that it's now a first class citizen is now just the same as a virtual machine, but running right at the hypervisor level. With all of the APIs and everything that's native to Kubernetes still built in to really transform how you can deliver those Kubernetes, like I said, while maintaining all of your operational standards and security standards and all those kinds of things. And it might be kind of fun I thought, to maybe watch the demo here to kind of see it in action as well. So let's do that.
This is an overview of Project Pacific. Project Pacific fundamentally changes how developers get access to vSphere infrastructure and how IT operations provides governance. vSphere has been re-architected to include a Kubernetes control plane for managing workloads on ESXi hosts. We call this the supervisor cluster. Kubernetes pods deployed on the supervisor cluster run directly on ESXi in a new native pod runtime that provides the security and performance of a VM with the small footprint and fast startup of containers. The supervisor cluster will run a service that allows development teams to provision their own Kubernetes clusters on demand. There are additional services to deploy traditional virtual machines and even third-party applications. Developers accomplish this with the same tools they use with any other Kubernetes application deployment. IT operations will continue to use the familiar vSphere client to manage the environment. The Kubernetes concept of a namespace has been integrated into vCenter, enabling IT to manage policy and governance of a whole application consisting of many VMs, native pods, and even Kubernetes clusters. Namespaces provide a resource envelope managed by IT into which developers can self-service their own cloud resources. Operations teams have a single view of the policy and workload activity for a namespace. CPU and memory limits can be added. Each namespace is backed by a vSphere resource pool that enforces these limits. Container-specific limits can also be set and are enforced through Kubernetes limit ranges. vSphere storage policies can be assigned to namespaces. This assignment causes storage classes and resource quotas to be created and enforced in the Kubernetes cluster itself. Storage quotas can be defined by namespace or storage policy. Finally, the operations team provides access to the cluster through the namespace, and developers access the namespace by downloading the upstream Kubernetes CLI and API tools. Developers can use standard kubectl with the vSphere plugin to handle authentication. The login command also builds the Kubernetes config file that provides appropriate access to the cluster. Creating clusters with the vSphere Kubernetes service is done through applying a simple declarative specification file. ESXi native pods and even virtual machines can be deployed in the same way. Real-time information through the vSphere client is available in new Kubernetes cluster pages. ESXi native pods details are available as well. And of course, VM information in the same inventory.
So that was a good little demo. For those that are kind of wondering, that was dark mode vCenter, which might be why it looks a little different to some people. I don't usually run in dark mode, but that's be wise. But you can kind of see there, actually you can kind of see some WCP references still in there as well, but that the developer has complete access to the tools that they need. You still see, the administrator still sees this as objects within vCenter that can be managed in the same way that all other virtual machines can be managed and seen there in the same pane, which I think is a truly revolutionary thing that, now it's, it was a VMworld 3 or 4 ago, I think, was our catchphrase there was the power of and I think that this is a kind of a really good example of that, where it's no longer Kubernetes or virtual machines, as both. And they both run on the hypervisor, they both run extremely fast. We have a robust management plane around it. So I think that that's really, really good. Again, there's some more information here on Tanzu. For those that are interested in that, it's again kind of separate products. Tanzu would kind of look after deploying things to Project Pacific, so that's kind of the way I would think about it. And I'll just kind of close here with the fact that we have an incredible amount of stuff for VMworld on demand. It's videos.vmworld.com/global/2019. And all of our most popular sessions, unfortunately, mine's not, so I guess maybe not that popular anymore, but are up here. Keynotes are up, all those kinds of things. So I highly recommend going to this site, when you get some free time, and really kind of just diving into some of these topics that are very interesting to you in deeper detail. And just search for VMware Cloud here. You can probably see how I spell VMware, and you can kind of see there is a whole schwack of VMware Cloud related sessions that are able to go up there and consume. And we also have the Europe check, but that's still coming up. So, like I said, I'll be at VMworld Europe. That we're already kicking up our ramp up for that, which is going to be in November. So just a couple months away now. So expect some more announcements there. So like I said, I just really want to do a very quick overview of a lot of the major announcements in case you missed it. Maybe add a little bit more color and detail to it. I'm always open for questions. You can always hit me up at vcloudmatt on Twitter. You can post questions on Twitch. You could comment on the YouTube video, or send us an email at cloudcs@vmware.com for any kind of further follow-up. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for their time and watching this with me today. And like I said, really some very exciting things coming from VMware, some really good announcements, and we're continuing to drive into that world of, multi-cloud. I like that term better than I like cloud native because I think there's more to it than just cloud native. The multi-cloud sums up better, and we're really, in my mind, leading and innovating in that space to bring the enterprise and the developer together to deliver true business value. So thank you very much, and I'll see everybody in a couple weeks.